after 3 months, all my acne had stopped. Like it wasn't gone. It still took a while to heal, but I was just amazed. My cycle went from 60 days all the way 6 months after that down to now I have a 28-day cycle I have for the past 5 years. Like ovulation consistent. I get a little emotional maybe the day before my period. I can like tell I'm a little snappy, but like it's just a different experience. And I had no idea that I could have a cycle that was not disruptive of my life.
Welcome to Suburban Warrior, the podcast that will impact, inspire, and empower you to transform your mindset and become the badass warrior that you are. I'm your host and fellow warrior, Chrissy Pfeiffer, former clinician and corporate marketing exec turned multi-passionate entrepreneur, performance and life coach, and mom to 4 not-so-little warriors. Each week, I will bring you honest conversations with inspiring guests to share their stories of resilience, optimism, success, and simple yet effective strategies so that you transform your thoughts and change your behavior to get the results you want in your life. You will be empowered to take action, warrior up, and believe in you. Let's do this. What's up, warriors? Welcome back to another episode of the Suburban Warrior Podcast. I'm your host, Chrissy Pfeiffer, back again with another amazing suburban warrior here to share her story and expertise with you. And once again, I'm so excited to have my guest on today because I know that, we are all so interested in learning more about our bodies, learning more about our health, and really just all the things that we can do to feel better, stronger, and empower each other every day. And my guest today is really going to help us do that. So I'm excited to introduce to you Kate Morton. She's a registered dietitian and founder of Funk It Wellness. With over 7 years of experience as a registered dietitian and master's degree in human clinical nutrition, Kate is dedicated to menstrual health and anti-diet culture education. She founded Funk It Wellness with a mission to empower all menstruators, providing them with autonomy over their bodies and helping them make peace with food and their cycles. Kate faced her own hormonal challenges after quitting birth control. This personal experience fueled her drive to launch Funk It. Merging her scientific know-how with genuine care, Kate created a brand dedicated to menstrual health. Welcome to the podcast, Kate.
Thank you for having me in that nice, warm introduction.
Absolutely. Well, I am really thrilled to have you on because as we were mentioning a little bit prior to recording, I think the work that you're doing is amazing with your company, Funk It. But I also think just coming on podcasts and talking about your experience and really educating women, young women, older women, people that are already done menstruating, like everything about their bodies and why it is so important for us to sort of listen to our bodies and tune in and do different things for ourselves throughout different parts of our menstrual cycle is huge. And I don't think that education really exists out there. So I'm really excited to get into it. So why don't we start by you telling us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, so I'm Kate. I'm a registered dietitian. I've got a master's degree in human clinical nutrition, like you guys already know. I live in Austin, Texas. So, hot all the time here. It's actually like 85 degrees today, even though it's January. And I really never thought I would be an entrepreneur. I never thought I would be talking about periods, little in my own period and my own experience publicly, because I did have so much shame around it because I didn't have the education. But truly, like learning about my menstrual cycle and learning how to take care of it, both from like a mental perspective, physical, nutrition, movement, has completely changed my life. And so now it's my goal in life to just share that education with everyone I can, because I think once you understand your body, you understand yourself. And I think so much of what we're dealing with as women is being disconnected from our bodies. And if we can just learn the things we weren't taught, it has healed a part of me I didn't even know needed to be healed.
Oh, I love that. And I agree. And I do feel like, as women and as young women, we are slightly disconnected from our bodies. Like we just think about our bodies as doing what they do. We get our period every month, it comes and goes. And yes, we deal with like the cramps and this and that. But I don't know if we all genuinely have a greater understanding of what is actually happening in our bodies, why it's happening, and then all of the like systemic changes that we have that are going on that are sort of related to that cycle. So why don't you tell us a little bit about your story, sort of, because I mean, listen, birth control is huge, right? There's a ton of young women on birth control. So what was your story about, once you went off birth control, what happened there?
Yeah. So look, I'm not anti-birth control by any means. I always like to start the conversation because I
Yeah,
do think like you make the choice that's best for your body. But the one thing I wish I would have had all of the education. I don't know about anyone listening, but I had issues with birth control almost right from the get-go, just how it impacted my mental health. And I never found one that really worked for me. And the last one I was on was the implant, which goes in your arm. I bled every day for 2 years, like spotting. And then it just was such a bad user experience for me. So when I got off of it, I was so excited because I was like, this is it. I'm going to feel my best. I'm going to be like glowing. I'm going to just be like this holistic hormone goddess. Guys, it was awful. Like I got acne, like really bad hormonal acne. My cycle took 6 months to come back. My period didn't come back for 6 months. And then when it did come back, it was super irregular. And really what had happened was I was dealing with all those things as a teenager. And that's kind of why I got on birth control in the first place. I never got to the root cause of any of those things. And then I started doing a
yeah,
little bit of a deeper dive and I was like, wow, we normalize being in pain around our periods and all of these like emotions and all of these things that are disruptive to our life. We normalize them, but really they're not medically normal. They're just common. And usually there's a root cause as to why you're experiencing those symptoms. And 90% of us have at least one symptom that alters our life every month. So that means like basically half your life you're spending not feeling your best. And that's kind of when I had this epiphany of there has to be more. There has to be a way to feel better. And then I started using my nutrition degree to try to tease it out and figure it out. And when I did, it was just like, wow, we can actually exist in harmony with our cycles, enjoy. I mean, I don't enjoy my period. I'm not going to like sit here and lie to you guys, but I don't hate it. And it doesn't like hold me back anymore.
right.
Where I used to be missing work in school. I mean, I hiked one of the largest vortexes in Sedona on the first day of my period in January, which 7 years ago I would have never been able to do.
Yeah. So why wouldn't you have been able to do it? Like, tell us, what were you just experiencing, like horrible cramps, horrible back pain? Like, were you just having really bad symptoms? Why was that holding you back?
Yeah. So for me, I was so much pain and I had really heavy periods. So I like wouldn't be able to be out of the house for that long. And then really heavy, painful cramping as well.
Yeah.
So I would have just probably like taken a really strong painkiller and like gone to sleep for the day kind of. And I would
Yeah.
also get migraines, which I've found was more and more common the more people I talk to. And yeah, I would have been on vacation in bed that day, not able to do any of the things I wanted to do.
So what made you sort of make the switch to, or not the switch, but think about using your nutrition and to help with your menstrual cycle? Like, how did you make that leap?
Yeah, so I was actually living in New Zealand at the time, like when I got off of birth control, and I was going, their system's a little bit different. So instead of having like specialists, you go to like a general practitioner that specializes in skin. I was going for acne. It's kind of crazy what we can put up with. I was fine putting up with the pain. I was fine putting up with all the things, but I have to admit, I'm a little vain, guys. Like I wanted this horrible hormonal acne gone, and I really just wanted to get on Accutane and be done with it. And no hate to that, but my doctor was like, honestly, this isn't like you're not a good candidate for Accutane. This is hormonal. We need to like dive in and figure out what's going on. That was the first time a doctor had ever said to me, hey, we need to look deeper to figure out why this is actually happening. So a friend had mentioned seed cycling to me. This doctor also had mentioned seed cycling and just was really encouraging me to like, for me, figure out like, okay, what are food triggers? Are you noticing anything that causes inflammation? So that doctor was really the turning point of this entire story of then I started to question kind of like what I had learned in school and it is very the things I learned in school are great for hospital settings that are life or death, like doing feeding tubes and when I was helping out in the NICU, like what I learned in school helped with that. What I learned in school did not help me when it came to this new like getting in touch with my body, more holistic approach. So then I went
Yeah.
back and got certified in integrative and functional nutrition as well. And I just like slowly started making these connections, Then I started seed cycling, which we'll get into in a minute. And I actually thought it was complete BS in the beginning. I was like, there is no way there, because at the time there was no peer-reviewed research. And as dietitians, we're like, oh, no peer-reviewed research can't be true. I
Right.
have gotten a big wake-up call on there are a lot of things we haven't studied yet that really do work and have been around a long time. But
Especially for women, because
yes,
women aren't studied at all. I mean, when you
yeah,
look at in medical journals, I mean, they just don't do
it's all
medical
men.
studies for women. I mean, I think it's starting to get a little bit better, but that's why, unfortunately, women's healthcare is where it is. But so,
It is. And
yeah,
I don't know, I just found this out not that long ago. Did you know that women didn't have to be included in research studies until 1993?
yeah. Oh, yeah, I did.
Which I was born in 94. So basically, like, I mean, that's not that long. That's like
Yeah,
30 years ago we
right.
started being included.
Absolutely. And as you were talking about your education, which of course, like you said, hospital setting, like it definitely had its place, but there are so many gynecologists, OB-GYNs that say, I was, never educated at all on menopause, like what happens after you don't get your period anymore. And so that's all evolving as well. But I mean, just to think that, you're not getting that education about that whole span of a lifetime of a woman's life. And same for you, right? There's a whole other piece of nutrition that you weren't really getting in school. So you had to, search a little further for that.
Yeah. And like, long story short, it turns out our nutritional needs are actually different in the different phases of our menstrual cycle, which it's insane to me that I wasn't taught that because over 75% of my patients were women and I wasn't able to actually give them what they needed. And so like the short summary of that is you have four phases of your menstrual cycle, which for anyone listening, if you thought your menstrual cycle and your period were the same thing, you're not alone. I also thought that until like 5 years ago when I went on this whole journey. So the first phase is your period. That's like when you're actually bleeding, not spotting, your hormones are the lowest, you've got some inflammation, you're shedding that uterine lining, your digestion's a little slow because your body's preoccupied shedding this lining. Then you move into your follicular phase, estrogen rises. This is kind of when people are like, oh, I feel like myself again. I feel really creative. Your body's like prepping for ovulation. You have that nice light glow, have a lot of energy. Then luteinizing hormone spikes, you ovulate. That's kind of the peak culmination of all of your hormones. After ovulation, you go into your luteal phase where progesterone is produced. And the thing is, all of those phases need different things. And if you're eating the same thing every day, but you feel different, it's because your hormones are changing. Or if you're trying to do a workout, if you're trying to run 5 miles every day, which I would not recommend for anyone, but it's going to feel different at every single time in your cycle. And so having that information allows you to make tweaks and then it allows you to take your hormones into account. And then that contributes to hormonal balance and less PMS symptoms. And essentially what you're talking about with seed cycling just makes that nutrition piece a little bit easier.
Okay. So thank you for explaining all those phases because I'm sure not many people did realize that there even are four phases that we go through like in 28 days, right? So you're essentially like in these phases
It's fast.
it's fast, right? So explain to us what seed cycling is.
Yes. So this was my first introduction into hormone health after that conversation with my doctor and a friend. And so what seed cycling is from the first day of your period until you ovulate, you have ground pumpkin and ground flax seeds. Then after you ovulate to your next period, you have ground sesame and ground sunflower seeds. And if it sounds simple, it's because it is, but here's how it works. So those ground flax and pumpkin seeds have omega-3 fatty acids, which are great for inflammation. They have phytoestrogens, which there's like a lot of misinformation around phytoestrogens, specifically like soy and some other things. So phytoestrogens actually, they don't raise estrogen or lower estrogen. They do it based on what your body needs. If your body has too much estrogen, it blocks and helps to get that extra estrogen taken out of the body. If you don't have enough, it kind of plugs in and brings it up. So that's going to be really important. You've got magnesium, which 68% of America is deficient in magnesium, and it's important for over 500 reactions in the body. You also have zinc, which is important for ovulation. That's all the pumpkin and flax seeds. Then the sesame and sunflower seeds, you have vitamin E and vitamin B6, which are clinically proven to be PMS busters, like breast tenderness, mood swings. You have calcium, which is supportive for period pain, again with omega-3 fatty acids, and zinc, magnesium, but then you also have selenium to support your thyroid. So you're getting all of that just by eating seeds every day. And you have 1 tablespoon of each depending on which phase you're in. And then I was doing that by myself in my coffee grinder. My husband got really over having seeds in his coffee all the time. So I was like, okay, maybe I should like figure out a better way to do this. And so that's kind of how Funk It was born. But seed cycling was that first introduction. After 3 months, all my acne had stopped. Like it wasn't gone. It still took a while to heal. But I was just amazed. My cycle went from 60 days all the way 6 months after that down to now I have a 28-day cycle I have for the past 5 years. Like ovulation consistent. I get a little emotional maybe the day before my period. I can like tell I'm a little snappy, but like it's just a different experience. And I had no idea that I could have a cycle that was not disruptive of my life.
Yeah. And I mean, I'm sure a lot of people listening, if they would, they'd be like, I'll take a little emotional for one day because some people are really struggling with some really severe symptoms, from their period or their menstrual cycle. So that's really amazing. Okay. So tell us then how, all right. So it sounds like because you were putting all these seeds in the coffee grinder and your husband was like, I don't want this in my coffee. You decided to figure out a different way and you started Funk It Wellness. Tell us a little bit about the different products that you have.
Yeah, so our seed cycling product is kind of what I just explained. It's organic, like cold ground seeds. And so you get a nurture blend and a radiate blend. It's got everything you need with your pumpkin and flax, sesame and sunflower. You don't have to blow out your coffee grinder. It's just like simple. The other thing I learned, which if you guys are into holistic health, which it sounds like you are, you'll be interested in, is ingredient sourcing. So
Yeah.
finding high quality ingredient sourcing that don't have heavy metal and they're organic for seeds was really hard. And so all of our seeds are grown in the US or Europe and everything's processed in the United States. So that was another thing that took a while because I was figuring this out during the pandemic. But that's our seed cycling kit. It's really great for like cycle regularity, fertility, anything around that, hormonal acne. Our Cycle Bites is the very first 100% food-based vitamin for the menstrual cycle. It took us 138 tries. I figured out now why most vitamins aren't food-based because it's
Yeah.
really hard to make them taste good. And so without adding a bunch of crap. So that's amazing for coming off of birth control. It's also really good for perimenopause because it has B12, vitamin D, and omega-3 fatty acids. So that we have that product. We have a maca collagen latte product. And then we also have a perimenopause seed blend that is more supportive for dryness, hot flashes, and supporting mood and sleep.
Awesome. It's really fascinating to me because I feel like we're in this amazing time in our culture where we're starting to really learn that it's not just about supplementing, it's about the right supplementing. And it's also about really trying as much as possible to get the right supplements and as much supplements that we can from our food first and foremost before supplementing, with a vitamin, if whatever you want to call it. Because too, even just some of the stuff that we buy off the shelves, it's not just that it's not that it's not good for us, it's just how bioavailable is what it is that we're taking, right? I mean, I've given my kids vitamin D my whole family, we take vitamin D every day, but you have to really take D with vitamin K in order for it to be absorbed. And I think a lot of people don't realize that. So those little things, you can take turmeric, but you have to really take it with black pepper in order for it to be absorbed. So all these simple things, if you just go to the local, pharmacy and buy a thing of vitamin D, I mean, maybe it helps because you think that you're doing it. So I do always think maybe it's like a placebo effect that you're getting, but you're really not getting all of the nutrition that you think that you're getting. So when you can really do and supplement with food, which is what you're doing, you're basically everything that you've created is food as vitamins, right?
Yeah, and like exactly what you just said is like the whole reason why I wanted to do that. There's so much we still don't understand about food, like different phytonutrients that are in there. Just like you mentioned, a lot of vitamins and minerals need other vitamins and minerals to even be absorbed. When it
Right.
comes to like we have prebiotic fiber that we're getting from food. It's just so many different things. It really works the way nature intended. And there are cases where your doctor's going to prescribe a high dose supplement that might be for a short time, but majority of our supplementation should be through food when we can get it because that's what our body knows how to work with.
Yeah, absolutely. So what was it exactly? I'm just curious. You have beautiful skin. Is there something in the supplements that is helping with your skin? Because I know that, there are a lot of women that still are facing adult acne, hormonal acne, and it's very frustrating.
Yeah, and when it comes to skin, I kind of have a multifactorial approach because I was definitely one of those people. Like, if you can see this video, I had ear to ear really painful, like that deep cystic acne.
Yeah,
Um, it was awful, and now I
it's
don't have any.
awful.
I haven't had a breakout in probably 2 years. And so, kind of how I look at approaching skin health, one, I truly do believe seed cycling helped exponentially with my acne. And if you read our reviews, there's a lot of other people that completely agree with that. But then on top of that, really figuring out gut health is a really important part of understanding skin health and hormonal balance. Because if you're figuring out, like, if you're intolerant to foods, if you're allergic to foods, that is a really big thing because if we're constantly consuming things our body doesn't handle well and damaging our gut lining, that is going to contribute to our skin health as well. So when it comes to skin health, staying hydrated, figuring out if you have trigger foods, and then really working on balancing your hormones, I think that is like the magic bullet.
Yeah,
And I never ended up taking anything for my acne because it ended up in stress. I do think stress is another one too to put in there, stress and
yeah,
sleep,
of course. Sure.
foundations of everything,
Right.
unfortunately.
Totally. So, are there any specific foods that you think should absolutely be avoided that you think are triggers for most women? Or no, do you think just like figure out what your insensitivities are and go from there?
You know what's interesting? So I also have a private practice where I work with clients one on one for like hormone and gut health at night. And so I actually don't believe there's one single food that we should all avoid. And I wish I could tell you guys it would be so much easier if I was like, yep, here are the three foods. But in my
Right.
opinion, it really matters because I have some clients, gluten is an absolute no-go. I do GI map testing, which is a
Yeah.
stool test where we can really get in there and figure it out. But I have other clients, gluten's not a problem at all. I have some clients, dairy absolutely causes their acne or contributes to it. Other clients, dairy is the key to them getting enough protein. So I really do think if you're struggling with a lot of GI issues and skin issues, it's worth the investment if you can do it to work with someone to really figure out trigger foods. Because the last thing we want to do is remove everything from our diet, have no fun eating,
Yeah.
and be really anxious about food. Unfortunately for me, I found out I also have celiac, so I can't have gluten and I don't tolerate dairy or soy. So it's a big bummer for me. Most of my clients, they don't have that problem. I also have Hashimoto's, which is a thyroid autoimmune disease. So I think that actually contributes more to those intolerances and allergies, but it's really going to be figuring it out. So GI map testing, just to circle back and give you guys an action item, can be a
Yeah.
really helpful way to figure that out.
Yeah, I would second that and agree. I have had the GI map testing done before, and I do think it really helps to sort of understand what's going on inside your body. Because again, going back to just women's health in general, going to the doctor and just getting like your straight up blood tests, it doesn't really cut it. We're not really getting the information that we need to really learn what's going on inside our bodies. So doing things that be like a deeper dive, like a GI map testing is huge, I think. But again, you have to kind of find a specialist who can do it and just empower yourself and take control of your health,
Yes.
right? Yes. Okay, so it sounds like you have supplements for a wide range because I was thinking it's just for women who are menstruating, but you also have something for the perimenopausal crew.
Yeah, so this was like it's so funny. Every product I've ever created either was for myself or somebody I love. And that's why I think love our customers even more because I'm like, oh, like now I feel like they're all part of like our like circle and our community. And so when I was working on developing these seed cycling kits, of course, all my friends are taking them. My mom was taking them. My mom was, I think, turning 50 at the time. And she just was going through a lot of changes. And she was like, I have no idea what's going on with my body. Went to her doctor, similar thing. They were like, oh, it's probably perimenopause and like sent her home. And she's like, okay, well, I don't know what that is. I don't know what I should be eating. So she started doing a lot of research online, and then she came to me and was like, because one thing as a dietitian I did learn how to do in school is read, evaluate, and interpret peer-reviewed evidence. And so I went on this perimenopause deep dive. And one, I was horrified at how little research there is, which is probably the theme of this whole conversation.
Yeah.
Two, like it's interesting because the hormones in perimenopause look similar to hormones when you're going through puberty. They
Yeah.
are all over the place. They are very unpredictable and it can make people feel very out of control. And at the same time, you might be experiencing hot flashes, dryness, and then on top of that, also mood swings and sleep disruption. So I really wanted to create a seed blend that was still food-based and could focus on perimenopause as a whole. So that's kind of where our perimenopause product came in, and it's actually one seed blend you take every day. So it's you don't have to track your cycle because it can be so unpredictable in that phase. And it has more omega-3 fatty acids and phytoestrogens in it and a little bit more fiber. So that's kind of where that blend came from. And then the maca it's great for fertility and it's great for perimenopause. And so that's how our product line ended up evolving, and we're really excited we're creating more perimenopause resources now, which I think is something we have been lacking a little bit in. So we're excited to offer a little more support there too.
That's awesome, Kate. Honestly, I think the work that you're doing is so amazing. I'm really excited. I'm going to try the perimenopause product because it sounds amazing. And I think who can't do with more fiber, omegas, and everything else. So I want to thank you so much for being on the podcast and for all the work that you're doing for us women, because it's really exciting, empowering, and very much needed work. So, why don't you tell my listeners where they can find your supplements?
Yeah, well, first off, thanks so much for having me, and thank you to all the listeners for tuning in and like learning and educating yourself. I think that's incredible. If you want to connect with me personally, my Instagram handle is carbs like a piece of bread and Kate, and that's where all my info about like client work and just like free tips and tricks are. Funkitwellness.com is where you can get any of the products, and then we're also on Amazon as well. And then our Instagram handle is funk.it.wellness. And we try to make learning about hormones fun and add some humor into it too. So we'd love to see you over there.
Yeah, I can tell that you absolutely make it fun. And I would encourage everyone to check it out because, the more that we can educate ourselves and the more that we can learn about our own bodies and what our own needs are, the healthier and better that we can feel each and every day. So thank you so much, Kate, for providing all that. Guys, we will link all of those in the show notes so you can find Kate and also check out Funk It Wellness. I want to thank you guys all for being with us today. We'll be back next week with another awesome Suburban Warrior story for you. And until then, you can find me at Suburban Warrior on YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram. And we'll see you next week. Thanks, Kate.